GT4 car gets out of your way or something and you go through, but it's still an overtake from the yellows. It's tricky, that isn't it?
It is, it's very tricky, so we shall see what we come up with there and if there's a penalty to be served.
7.2 now, the gap between Coldridge and Lynn came down by another 2/10, but Mitchell is 59.9 that time, 6/10 faster than Coldridge. So first to third essentially is now under 10 seconds once Grimes makes his pit stop, which has to be shortly because we have only 22 3/4 minutes to go, and Montague Grimes has to give Marco Sorensen another go at the wheel, otherwise he's going to risk exceeding his maximum driver time. There goes Sandy Mitchell then. Into Stone Corner he goes in the Marlboro Motorsport Lamborghini. He's got the GT4 leader ahead. When do they pit then? Will Burns and Matt Cowley and Chris Salkel, those top three in GT4. It's when Matt Cowley pits is right now. They just came in the GT4 Ford Mustang. So in GT4 then, the 27 Aston Martin of Darren Turner and Seven Fielding in the 42 Audi. These are the two that have made 3 pit stops. In between them, look, is the GT3 McLaren, which deals with Darren Turner now. Where will Cowley come out in relation to these two? Because Matt Cowley has 14 seconds to serve in the pits because he's a silver graded car. So too was the Audi, actually. So the Audi was able to close back in. This is our first glimpse then in half a lap's time, Marino, of how many cars we have in the lead GT4 battle. It's 2 at the moment, but let's see where Cowley comes out.
I'm pretty sure it's going to be more. Darren's maintaining the gap at the moment to Fielding, so it's working well. They've had good pace in that little Aston all race long.
Yeah, but Darren told me, I think it was Darren told me yesterday, that this race format does suit the Pro-Am entries, and that is being kind of demonstrated in both classes, isn't it? At the moment, it looks like the top 4, 5, maybe 6 or 7 cars in GT3 are going to be Pro-Ams, and in GT4 it's going to be possibly more silvers towards the front, but of course in GT4 where you're still allowed these silver cup entries, but with the extra 14 seconds in each pit stop to be served, it's certainly hard for a silver combo to come out with the race victory. So Academy Motorsport then, who started from the back of the grid in this race, they managed they didn't score any points last time. They scored 1.5 points. They were 10 at Brands Hatch, so the last point scorer in the season opener. They are in for their final pit stop, which means that surely this car should be in soon as well. This is realistically the only other car that will be in this lead battle, won't it? But it has the 20-second success penalty to serve and the 14-second Silver Cup penalty. So compared to the 27 Aston Martin's final pit stop, this car's final pit stop is going to be 34 seconds longer.
Ooh, that is a lot of time to try and make up, and not a lot of race left to do it. And also, even if you have a pace advantage.
So we saw a glimpse there of the Academy Mustang still in. Chris Salkel, by the way, has just pitted in the 9 Century Motorsport BMW, so that's his final stop, which means this is now the only car in GT4, the only car in GT4 that hasn't yet made its final stop. Where are Turner and Fielding? They're in the 2nd sector at the moment, so when they come around this time, then I think we'll see what the gap is.
And Grimes is in from the lead.
He is, you're right. Monty Coldridge, by the way, just in the purple first sector, so Coldridge really is flying now, but yeah, this is the last of our GT3 cars to come in. So finally, 2 hours and 40 minutes into the race, Marino, it's all starting to make sense.
It is, finally. On the last lap before that, while Lind on this lap has done a good first sector, Coldridge on this lap has done a good first sector, Mitchell is still closing in on Lind. Even that lap, it was only a 10, but whenever Lind tries to react to it, Mitchell's, whether it's a 10, a couple of 10s, he's got a little bit in hand right now. Each lap, that gap is closing down 2 seconds now.
Yeah. Well, we'll see it now then, maybe. There's Coldridge. He's 7 seconds ahead of Dennis Lind, who there comes through. And there, look, Sandy Mitchell getting closer and closer. The Academy Mustang's back out again. I'm pretty sure it's some way behind the 27 Aston Martin, the 42 Audi, and Dennis Lind.
Lovely.
Well, you said traffic was a chance to gain or lose time, but he sees the opportunity there in the hope now that Sandy Mitchell will get held up by those two going into club.
Yeah, he's trying to thread the needle there, and yep, that's exactly what's happened. Sandy's got caught up in the traffic, and that's definitely going to cost him some time this lap.
Yeah, on the inside of the Ginetta then, the Sito Motorsport car of Charlie Robertson. No chance of the victory, it seems, in GT4 this time, but he should be able to get himself some more solid points. And hopefully got a little bit stronger at Donington. It's also never used to be a particularly good Ginetta circuit. And even with the G56 model, it seems to be the same case. There goes Sandy Mitchell then, through the right-hander at Village into the left of the loop. In the first sector, he was purple, so 3/10 faster than Dennis Lind. This is on board, meanwhile, with the Ford Mustang, and Sandy Mitchell comes through.
Yeah, this Max's green thing appears in his peripheral vision. He decides to turn out there sensibly.
So Sandy Mitchell then, in the first sector,
He's on the limit there on braking, sorry.
Blimey, yeah, very wide, wasn't he, as he went past the GT4 McLaren. First sector for Mitchell, purple, faster than anybody else, 3/10 quicker than Dennis Lind. Second sector, traffic gets in the way, he loses 1.3 seconds to Lind. In one corner, that is exactly what we've been talking about with traffic.
Yeah, it's the perfect way to show that on screen. You can see Lind, he used the cars fighting to get in front of to get past the traffic. And Mitchell, just where he caught it, bad luck, he could not make the move and clear them, and it cost him. Yeah, you saw it in time, a second.
That was the 9 BMW of Andrew Gordon Colbrook rejoining the race behind, I think, the Mustang of Will Moore. This car, though, still hasn't made its third stop. They're going to do it. They're going to do a Schumacher here, aren't they? Right at the end of the race for the final driver change. Will Burns for Century Motorsport then will hand over at some point to his teammate in this 57 car, Gus Burton, to bring it home to the flag. The advantage they've got is, I think, a full lap now. Well, it will be a full lap over Darren Turner, but of course, you're going to lose well over a lap. Remember, a GT4 pit stop is 165 seconds, even before you start then adding on the extra penalties.
Darren Turner as well is not making it any easier for them because he keeps knocking in fastest lap after fastest lap. So just a 10.9 that last lap, a low 11 the lap before that. Stretch the gap now to Fielding to 4.5, getting close to 5 seconds. So Darren is really putting the pressure on. It's going to be very difficult for these guys to maintain that lead and come back out.
Because significantly, Darren Turner 2.3 seconds quicker than Will Burns on the previous lap. So he's going quicker than the car that he's chasing, and the car he's chasing has longer to spend in the pit lane. So, intriguing stuff. I told you this race will keep you guessing right to the end. We've got a quarter of an hour to go in the Silverstone 500. Martin Cockridge leads the way for 2C's Motorsport. They've led on and off throughout most of the race, really, with a 7.7 seconds clear now. Dennis Lind in second, and Sandy Mitchell 1.8 seconds behind Dennis Lind in the sister Barbell car. He was half a second quicker. Without traffic, I think Mitchell can get there, can't he? But then he's got to find a way through.
Both things. He has to get a little bit luckier with his traffic, and also then he would have to try and pass a teammate car. So the performance is so even. We can see that the gains and the losses are without traffic are tiny. But the Mercedes, the 2C's car at the moment, is looking very good because it has that cushion over these two cars, and he can manage the gap. He doesn't have to drive right at the limit. And you know these guys are pushing as hard as they can to close that.
Yeah, you can see that vision. You can't go on the screens. Long last, Will Burns is in to serve the final pit stop for the 57 BMW. So we'll find out in a couple of minutes or so what the full picture is in GT4. GT3 is fairly straightforward. It's a fight for second between the Lamborghinis. There is Will Burns then. Gus Burton will get back on board then for the final, well, it's going to be 12 minutes or so by the time this pit stop is done. And there he is, just helping extricate Will and then getting himself to, well, you can't do that yet, of course. You can't have anyone touching the car whilst the refuelling is being done. It's a safety measure, which is why they then have to refuel and then change tyres after that. So there's Darren Turner. He's getting away from Senate Fielding in the Audi. 4.3 seconds the gap. They're heading out onto the Hanger Straight now. But this is going to be a 2.5 minute plus pit stop. This is going to feel so painful.
and they're going to be done with feeling. I don't know if they're. I doubt they'll take tyres at this point in the race. With only 30 minutes to go.
True.
Not really worth it. So I think it's just going to be a lot of sitting there and waiting.
Yes, although I guess you may as well change tyres in a way because you've got, let's face it, they've got time. They've got plenty of time. It's not going to lose you anything.
No.
But,
As a Scotsman, though, you know they cost money tyres. You can keep them for the next race.
Very, very good point. So when the Aston Martin comes through this time, it will be to unlap itself.
I think they've just unlapped themselves, and now this would be for the lead.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, he's been a pit lane longer than I realised. This should be our final pit stop, full stop as well. I think everyone else that's running has made the required number of 3 mandatory driver changes. There is Darren Turner then, out of the loop, through Aintree. He's got a car ahead of him, I noticed, a couple of GT4 cars, and of course that's another problem in and of itself then, because you've got a GT4 car fighting for the class lead, coming up against GT4 cars that may be fighting for their own positions, although in that instance they're not actually, because one of them is Jamie Stanley in the troubled number 40 McLaren. But you don't have that natural pace advantage, do you, over another GT4 car?
Sandy Mitchell is only 1.1 seconds behind Lynn now. He's still closing in.
Turner, case in point here, not able to get past the McLaren, but there he is. He's going to go ahead of the 57 BMW. We think that is for the class lead in GT4. Yes, it is. They were back on the same lap then, so there should now be the Newbridge Motorsport Aston Martin on its debut in the championship. Possibly looking odds on here for the race victory in GT4, but then we were ready to give the winner's trophy to Sito Motorsport at Brands Hatch a few weeks ago, and look how that turned out. So BMW waits in the pit lane then, and as the Lamborghinis, have just spotted this out the window, they come across the start-finish line with 11 minutes to go, and it couldn't be much closer now. The gap is down to 7/10 of a second. It was another personal best lap there for Sandy Mitchell, a 1:59.174, and he is really pushing.
He's on the ragged edge. Love to see that. He's pushing so hard.
You can sense a chance here to really turn things around after what happened at Brands Hatch. Of course, for the 63 car, 2 solid podium finishes to start the season off is pretty handy indeed. And don't forget, because that 14 car is a race-by-race entry, okay, it's going to win the race, but this is the battle for 37.5 championship points, because you take those race-by-race cars out of the order when you start looking at championship points, so everyone else then moves up a position, so that is, in a way, for the race win. They won't get the trophy, but they'll get the points.
Looking for the timing screen to update here, because it's still showing the Burton car, the 57 on our screen now, in first place.
It will update at the end of the lap, I think, so we'll have to wait, unfortunately, until it crosses the line again. Well, technically, until Darren Turner crosses the line, he should then jump back ahead of the BMW. That should happen any moment now. Right, Lamborghini back in second place through the parts of the circuit where these 2 cars tackled a couple of years ago. Thankfully not quite close enough to do the same sort of thing. Now, Mitchell's done the catching. He's had to work his tyres quite hard to do that, obviously. He's now running in the dirty air. He's going against a car that, in theory, should have similar pace at similar parts of the circuit to him. What's the strategy here for Mitchell? How does he make this work?
I think he'll be trying to catch Lynn out in traffic, because when you're this close, when the car's so close behind you, if you make the wrong decision, it gives them an opportunity to pass you. So Sandy can sit back to a degree and pick his point better if Lynn catches traffic at the wrong point. But it's going to be very difficult when you're in the same cars. As you say, catching is one thing, but the overtaking is completely different. Look, Dan Turner's still behind this McLaren.
Yes, but he is in the lead. It has now been confirmed that he is ahead of the 57 BMW. Tries to get the inside now of James Kell in the number 2 McLaren at Stone. They're losing time here to the Audi behind. You can see the Audi is starting to get closer again. And Darren Turner, he enjoys a good scrap, does Darren, but he's having to fight a bit too hard here to pass a car that is a full lap behind him, but he has now done it. So there are 2 lapped cars now between the top 2 drivers in GT4.
I mean, you're quite frustrated at that point. It's very difficult. The margins between the cars, we can see it there. These are cars that are not in the league battle, yet they're still able to run so close to the pace. And obviously with ABS, it's very easy to break deep, and it makes it very difficult when you're trying to overtake cars. It can be quite frustrating.
So the GT4, then Darren Turner leads in the 27 Aston Martin. Second is number 42, Senna fielding in the Audi. Third for the Toyota on Scott McKenna. Toyota looking for their first podium, remember, in the championship. They are third place at the moment. Gus Burton came out of the pit lane 26.5 seconds behind even a podium place. The car that's led pretty much every lap in GT4 in this race is not even going to make the top three. Right, who finishes second and who gets the race winning points here? 37.5 points for winning the race. It's likely to go to a Barwell Motorsport Lamborghini. Which one?
It's going to be tough to say. I mean, Sandy, just you can see from the attitude of the car, he's using every single piece of performance that it has. Does he have the pace though to overtake, and not just overtake? It's going to be a clean overtake.
Yes, otherwise Mark Lemon will be having words. Fairly strong ones you imagine in the pit lane. I mean, I'd love to actually hear from Mark. At least get a shot of him in the pit lane, because he must be having kittens right now. He's been in this position before, but this time it's for the second place in the race. It's for full championship points. Now traffic ahead, and that is the lead GT4 battle. This could be significant for both classes, couldn't it?
It could. It's so difficult at this point in the race when you're battling within your class and there's traffic and people are you're trying to not impede anyone else, but also you've got your own battle going on. Fielding's now made it past the two McLaren, so he's made short work of those. 2-second gap to Darren. And this is going to be interesting into the chicane here, because a lot of GT4 traffic. For the Lamborghinis, they've cleared it nicely before they get in there.
Mitchell to the outside though, almost got the overlap there. I was a bit worried there, because that's not a good place to catch traffic, but they dealt with it well. The yellow flags have long since gone in as well. The Bentley was moved out to harm's way. So battle can continue. They will be inside of the second place Audi, which does indicate to the left there to tell them to pass on the right. Nice driving that from Senna Fielding, experienced driver. Is Senna, and now they've just got this one last McLaren. That's the number 3 example, I think, isn't it, of Vallant to get past, which they do into Village. So no real gain there for either of them. Link held position. Mitchell wasn't able to. He had that little go in down a club, didn't he? But wasn't ever really able to turn it into an opportunity.
No. He knows that. He obviously tried to catch up in the championship, but he also knows to do that he has to finish cleanly. Mitchell does, so he's pushing hard, but he's not going to do anything silly, I'm sure. He's got his head screwed on as a young man.
That's a left field they go then. Now, the car in the race lead is being warned for track limits, not for the first time or the second, but for the third time. If Marty Kodrich exceeds track limits one more time, because we're in the final 5 minutes, it won't be a drive-through penalty, it will be a 30-second time penalty. So, talk about pressure. He's got no one around him, he doesn't really need to push him this hard, but one more slip-up will cost them the race.
Wow, that is pressure. But at the end of the day, he's put himself in that situation with the track limits. It's so easily done, the margins are tiny. But he's got the gap, he doesn't need to push to that end. But what he's got to hope is that he doesn't get involved with traffic that runs in white, because that could be a whole different problem.
Yeah, because then it doesn't matter whether the first 3 were your faults, even if the last one is. Then you'll still get the penalty. It's Cops, Stowe, and this corner here, Club, which they're watching, stay well away from the white line there.
He's had the message.
Yeah.
Someone's been on the telephone and told him, please stay within the track limits.
You can see these two just flirting with it there as they come out of the final corner. It does seem that Mitchell's hit a bit of a brick wall here. He's caught his teammate, but he just doesn't have the car advantage. They say, don't they, sometimes you need to be the best part of a second a lap quicker than the car in front to be able to make a relatively easy pass. There is the Barwell pit garage, nervous faces, but I'm just not convinced Mitchell is that much quicker than Lynn, that he's going to be able to just make a move wherever he wants.
No, not so far. We'd be interested to see though what Lynn has left. He really got close here. He could have a look. Yeah, it's, again, he's got to have a proper advantage. He's got to be alongside to make a move like that work against a car that is so equal with what he's driving.
That might be the place to do it though. Mitchell seems to come off the loop pretty well, and that gives him good speed through entering down the Wellington straight. 3.25 minutes to go, so 2 more laps remain in the Silverstone 500. We're on lap 85 as well, so this will be the lap that sees us break the 500-kilometre distance, and it should therefore, hopefully, with the confirmation of this, be a distance record for this Silverstone 500, fitting in the 10th anniversary of this blue ribbon event. The battle for second place rages on between the Barwell Motorsport Lamborghinis. They weave their way through Baggett's and Beckett's for the penultimate time of asking. This, meanwhile, is for position in GT4. Around the outside goes Andrew Gordon Colebrook, and he moves into 6th place in GT4. So he puts the Academy Motorsport Mustang down a position. That was a good move.
That was a very nice move. I don't know if it's completed yet. The Mustang's not giving up without a fight.
Yeah, this is, who's in the Mustang now? It's Will Moore, isn't it? That's the Storm Colebrook that just went through. They're not that far ahead of our second place battle. I reckon these two might catch the two cars we just saw battling away before the end of the race, which is only a lap and a half away now.
Turner still maintaining a 3-second lead.
Yes, he is. Darren Turner, 3.1 again. Once he cleared that traffic, they're pretty much identical in lap time, aren't they, the Aston Martin and the Audi? So barring any late drama there for Turner, he might be able to win, finally, that British GT race on his return to the series.
So while Kodrick's obviously has that penalty hanging over his head, he's still managing to extend his lead.
Yeah. He's not backed off, really, has he?
No.
Personal bests in the speed traps there as well, both the speed traps on the track. Right, Mitchell, I still think this is his best opportunity, but he's not quite as close this time into Brooklands as he was a lap ago. Takes a wider line instead, trying maybe to work up to a better exit from Luffield to run down the pit straight, but Lind, this is the thing with Dennis Lind, he doesn't really make mistakes, does he? So if Mitchell's going to do this, he's going to have to force the issue.
He really is. What's interesting going into Brooklands there at the end of that straight is it's very easy, especially when you have the ABS like these cars do, to defend that because you can turn and brake at the same time. You have to be alongside in a car like this early in the straight to be able to make that work.
Attitude there of Sandy Mitchell's car as it turned through turn 1. Now traffic at Beckett's, not a good place to catch GT4 cars. That's Will Moore in the Ford Mustang, and this surely now is music to the ears of Sandy Mitchell, who closes in on Dennis Lind, who's still getting blocked by the Mustang. Mitchell goes to the outside, to the inside, trying to get the speed off the corner, can't quite get the overlap, but he's right in the slipstream now. This for second place on the final lap of the race. Defensive line by Dennis Lind. They're going to catch the Andrew Gordon Colebrook BMW as well. Lind to the inside, Mitchell in the middle. There's a big squeeze. They almost made contact. Just about to board each other right round the outside for Mitchell. Now there is contact at the exit. Oh, he's going to have the inside line down to come with him. Mitchell late on the brakes. He has done it. Sandy Mitchell into second place. What a battle that was, and Dennis Lind is now the track back.
Come on,
Oh my word, Lind, man,
this is not over. No, this is definitely not over.
Brilliant racing, that absolutely
A little bit of
fantastic.
contact. It'd be interesting. Hopefully Mitchell stayed within track limits while getting round that corner. It's hard to see, but
Good point, very good point. We'll find out later. Now, on the inside of another back marker, they go into village for the final time. Would you believe it? This is for second place, but a reminder, the car in the lead will not score points, so that was really significant potentially for the championship for Barwell Motorsport's two cars.
What a move.
Wow, talk about pressure on that move as well. Right, Martin Kodrich, thankfully, appears to have avoided exceeding track limits. He's a bit sideways through Brooklands, but he's only 2 corners from home now. The 2021 Silverstone 500 is going to be won by 2C's Motorsport, having never won a race in the championship before. It's their first time racing the Mercedes. They've dominated the weekend, fastest in qualifying comfortably, and they win the Silverstone 500, round number 2 of the Intelligent Money British GT Championship. Now, who will be second? It should be Sandy Mitchell, I think. Yes, it is. Sandy Mitchell does hang on from Dennis Lind. What a battle between the Barwell teammates.
What a finish. And all smiles in the garage, that's what we like to see. Everyone's friends.
That really reminds me of that Brands Hatch race a couple of years ago when Johnny Cocker, who was in the 69 Barwell Lamborghini at the time, was overtaken by Phil Keane on the last lap at Hawthorne, round the outside. A very, very similar situation there. Maybe this time at Stowe at Silverstone. GT4 then, Darren Turner is going to do it. He's going to win his first British GT race, and he's going to do it in style with Matt Topham on his debut in the championship. Matt Topham has dreamt of racing in British GT for years, and he wins on his first attempt. That is such a feel-good story. And they really were pushed hard there, weren't they? That Audi of Sam Fielding and Richard Williams, only 3.3 seconds back at the flag.
That is a great result for Darren. Very happy for him. It was my parting shot today was, you've never won a British GT race. And he kind of gave me a look, and he's obviously shut me up with that one. So well done to those guys. That's a fabulous way to enter the... Okay.
Okay. Round the outside, a very, very similar situation there. Maybe this time at Stowe at Silverstone. GT4 then, Darren Turner is going to do it. He's going to win his first British GT race, and he's going to do it in style with Matt Topham on his debut in the championship. Matt Topham has dreamt of racing in British GT for years, and he wins on his first attempt. That is such a feel-good story. And they really were pushed hard there, weren't they? That Audi of Sam Fielding and Richard Williams, only 3.3 seconds back at the flag.
That is a great result for Darren. Very happy for him. It was my parting shot today was, you've never won a British GT race. And he kind of gave me a look, and he's obviously shut me up with that one. So well done to those guys. That's a fabulous way to enter the... Okay.
Okay. Dennis Lind... I don't know what his issue would be with Martin Kodrich.
I don't know if he's going to congratulate him and he didn't know he was there. That was... yeah.
Oh dear, and that would have been embarrassing, wouldn't it? We might have struggled to get podium interviews from the drivers if they crashed on the in-lap, but yes, that little incident aside, I mean, that is perfection really, isn't it, for 2C's Motorsport? They were the fastest car in both of their qualifying sessions. They really, although there were times where, because maybe Barwell had stuck the pro driver in when 2C's had the AM in, there were times when they lost the lead, but they were never out of the fight, and throughout that entire final stint really, they never looked likely to lose it unless that track limits thing would come back to bite them.
Yeah, the track limits was the only issue that they had all day. They seemed to have it under control. I honestly thought at one point that the 63 had the pace that it was going to be out in front, but now the 14, the 2C's team, it's pretty amazing to be able to come from a different manufacturer, to come from the McLaren, and they were very successful with that, to get the Mercedes and to win straight out of the box. Very impressive.
The top two cars in the race, of course, 14 and 1, started first and second on the grid. If you just looked at the grid sheet and the race result, you'd be forgiven for thinking it was a pretty dull race, but absolutely not the case. And then the 63 car that started 8th, had a spin on lap 1, came back to finish almost second, ended up in third. So Martin Kodrich and Hunter Abbott win for 2C's Motorsport with the the battling Barwell Lamborghinis behind them. Ballon and Mitchell getting the better of Machitsky and Lind on the very last lap. John Eastwood and Giacomo Petrovelli on their return for TF Sport get 4th, with Yellow Vernon and Ian Bloggy in the Ram Mercedes 5th, ahead of Andrew Howard and Johnny Adam in the BT Aston Martin. Then it was the 95 TF Aston Martin in 7th, the 69 Ram Racing Mercedes in 8th, the 66 Team Park Racing Porsche was 9th, and the Proctors in their Balf Motorsport McLaren rounded out the top 10 ahead of winners at Brands Hatch, Phil Keane and Michael Iger. They took maximum points from the season opener. They don't score a single, or they will inherit a few points, I guess, from this one, but it's going to be a very low points haul indeed. You and Hanky and Mia Fluor were next after their lap on spin ahead of Jennings and Caton. GT4 was won by Darren Turner and Matt Topham, with Sam Fielding and Richard Williams in the Audi second. Scott McKenna and John Ferguson the third in the Toyota, ahead of Will Burns and Gus Burke, who led most of the race in the 57 BMW, and Mark Sansom and Charlie Robertson rounding out the top 5. Right then, an awful lot to unpack after an entertaining Silverstone 500, and the leaders are the winners, and the podium finishers are pulling up underneath the Silverstone podium, and hopefully before too long we'll be able to have a chat with them. Some real feel-good stories. 2C's with their first victory, the number 1 car bouncing back after a non-finish at Brands Hatch, the 63 car bouncing back after its spin on the opening lap of the race. There are Hunter Abbott and Martin Kodrich, though, the winning moment as they're reunited after the end of the race, and that has got to be such a good feeling. You get out of the car, and the first person you want to see there is the driver that you shared that victory with, right?
It is. You want to celebrate. You've done that together. See the Bahrain flag there on the wheel well of the car. It's
good looking car as well.
It is a gorgeous car. I was saying that earlier. I like his helmet too. Nice paint job. Yeah, it's a very pretty car. They're such a well put together team. They haven't been around for very long, but they're just doing so well in all of the races that they do.
The size of the front end of that Mercedes, I mean, it's the size of a small county, isn't it? It's
a lot of engine under there.
An awful lot, and it was put to good use, wasn't it? Yeah, compare that to the Lamborghini, which is about half the length, isn't it? But Barwell will be happy with that. They very nearly weren't happy. If it had come to blows probably on the last lap, that wouldn't have been a cheery atmosphere in the garage. But second and third at a track that they shouldn't have been on the podium. This was not a good Lamborghini circuit, and yet they got second and third from that race with the number one car ahead. Right then, down in amongst all of the action is Bryn Lucas, and I believe he has found our, I'd imagine, very happy race winners.
Wow, how about that, Hunter, Martin? That was phenomenal. You know, you're not supposed to show up like this and win the race, are you?
I mean, we've got a great competition here. We didn't expect to just come up here and, they gave us a hard time in the end of the racing, especially Dennis. He had a great pace, and it was just a matter of, keeping the pace up and, keeping the gap. And so he really pushed me there, and I had to push really hard at the end. So great competition, but we came up on top, and that's what we came here for.
And Hunter, it all started with your first stint in the car, really, wasn't it? You had to put the times in, but you had to be consistent.
Yeah, so with that, I was just really glad we had a clean start, and the others started fighting between themselves, so I could just kind of get my head down and just focus on hitting the apexes, getting the braking points, just keep on going and going and going, until they called me in, which seemed like a long time, to be honest.
Were there any concerns for you at the very end there, when you had 5 minutes to go and you had that track limits warning?
Not really. I mean, I was a little surprised with the track limit, because I think I didn't get the information. I think I've missed the information that I was on the last one, so I had to be more careful in the last couple of laps. But it was not really a problem. I was managing everything. Also, the pace of the car came at the end as well, compared to the Lambo from Barwell and Dennis. So it was alright. It was alright. Yeah, it wasn't too much pressure. I just wanted to bring it home.
It was pretty good. Well done. Congrats there. I'll go and forget the other guys now.
Yeah, pretty good is a decent description of that. A pretty flawless performance, obviously. 2C's Motorsport, who led from pole position, and they were really never headed. Yes, a circuit that suits the Mercedes pretty well, but they still have to do the job well themselves, didn't they?
They did, and there was other Mercedes out there that weren't today as fast as this car was. They just got everything right. They got the strategy right, the drivers. There's not a mark on it. It's just a perfect day.
So we're going to head back down into pit lane, who I believe has got our second and third place GT3 finishers.
Well, you know what, Andy? I thought they were so close out on track, you might as well speak to them close together here as well. So, Sandy, let's go to you first of all. What a brilliant last stint for you.
Yeah, I mean, I could tell in the garage it was always going to get interesting for that last 20 minutes, half an hour, because everyone was on slightly different strategies, and then it's not till the end of the race you really kind of see where you are. So, yeah, I came out the pits with fresher tyres and low fuel compared to Dennis, who obviously jumped us on track position. And yeah, I thought I'd get there, but it was always going to be hard to overtake, and then having a little bit of GT4 traffic just meant I could get that car length closer, and fair play, we left each other just enough room, and thankfully I was able to get the position.
Yeah, and quickly, Adam, watching on, what was that like?
Oh my god, it was so tense. Leo and I had no idea what was going to happen. It was 10 hooks, and actually I didn't think he'd get past, because Dennis didn't make any mistakes. It was just the traffic, basically.
Well, let's quickly speak to Dennis and to Leo as well. I mean, it was such a fascinating battle at the end, but Dennis, you did get picked right at the end.
Yeah, I mean, we had a little bit of a struggle in the beginning of the race, and we were a little bit on the back foot with the strategy, so we were only really playing for track position in my second stint, and that was when we could push, and we knew last stint was going to be a very, very long one, so, tires and fuel was, running to the end, so, it was interesting for sure, but Sandy was just, quicker in the end, and it was just about trying to be quick out of the corners and have the straight line speed, but in the end traffic got us, I think, and he did a brilliant move around the outside. So it was good racing, and it feels a bit like a 1-2 for the team. So that's the most important.
It's great to see, isn't it, Leo, just how you can have such clean, fast, beautiful racing rather than having to get aggressive all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, actually, I had to get aggressive because I went to dead last on lap 1. So that I think that feels really good considering the circumstances of a qualifying, and then my first lap spin and then to come back from that, to fight it back. Also, we had a 10-second penalty, success penalty for Brands. So to come back and be this close and this competitive, I think, you know, we've definitely got a strong team, a strong lineup, and very good teammates. So very happy.
It was great to watch. Well done. Well done.
Thank you.
That move at the end, and you know, it was a terrific battle all the way through, but it wasn't just for second place in the race, this for Saki Mitchell, it was worth an extra 10.5 championship points, and in a series that is year after year decided by 2-3 points maximum, could they look back at that last lap at the end of the year and think, yeah, that was the moment we won it?
They certainly could. As you say, every point's a prisoner when it comes to British GT. It was just a great last stint by Sandy Mitchell. He said there, you know, he had the fresh tyres, he had the less fuel on board, but he still just harried Lynn so hard.
In GT4, things were just as frenetic, and it was another real feel-good story with Darren Turner and Matt Topham on their debut taking the victory.
Yeah, exactly. Their debut with a new team in the championships as well. But Darren and Matt, brilliant race. Darren, it's phenomenal what you do in a car.
Well, no, I mean, the car, the team and everything, they've done a great job with the preparation. We had a test here a couple of weeks ago. On Friday it went well. Just getting up to speed with the GT4, and to be fair, Matt's been amazing over the test days, and his pace in the race has been fantastic. So really pleased that we've ended up on the top step of the podium. It's a nice way to start, missing Brands, but now at least got some decent points here. But yeah, great effort by everyone at the team.
And Matt, before this we were talking about the fact that you'd had a dream to race in British GT, and now look, first race.
Yeah, it's
Might as well retire, yeah?
Well, we're not finished yet. There's plenty more to come yet, but just getting more and more comfortable in the car, lap by lap, test by test. It's great. What a dream.
You seem a bit emotional, but well done.
Just a little bit.
So a victory for the team that weren't able to race with us at Brands Hatch last time out, but as we said during the race there, Marino, even though they missed the first race, they could, if they keep that performance up, certainly still be in the conversation for the championship when we get to Donington at the end of the year.
Absolutely. With performances like that, no doubt. And it was interesting, you could see it took a little bit to settle down at the beginning of the race. Once Darren was in the car, the second half of the first stint, when Darren got into the car, they're great. They're a great team.
Yeah.
You can see, and as the experience builds up for the team and the drivers, they're going to go from strength to strength. It's a great way to start. I do like the way the car looks as well. I think it's quite a cool paint job.
Yeah, it does look rather good, doesn't it? And Matt Topham's got a good tutor there, hasn't he, in Darren Turner, who does know a thing to GT racing. Right then, the rather complicated process of how to call the trophies out begins. We start with the overall GT3 podium then. Third place goes away with Dennis Lind and Leo Chitsky, with Sandy Mitchell and Adam Ballon coming home in second place. What a big move that could have been. They score first place points, remember. The race win though goes to 2C's Motorsport. Martin Cockridge brought it home. Hunter Abbott put in some good stints early on. That is, by the way, I'm reliably told, the first race-by-race entry to win a race since 2015. The Von Ryan Racing team were victorious. I would love to pretend that I knew that, but as ever, thanks to Tom Hornsby for the useful stats. Great victory for 2C's Motorsport though, and the Mercedes the team will of course also hold the RAC trophy, and a trophy is a trophy, but when there's a special trophy like that, you know, like the Harley JL trophy over in America for example, it just means that little bit more, doesn't it? And the RAC trophy in particular, Marino, such an iconic name within British motorsport.
Absolutely. It's one of those ones that you want on your CV. And here comes the champagne. Just what you want after a warm afternoon in a car. It's funny, it tastes really nice. It doesn't smell great afterwards, but it tastes very nice.
It stings a little when it gets in your eyes, so I'm told.
Yeah.
It's not something I've experienced myself, I must say, but good to see good camaraderie all round it, including between the Barwell teammates there. It would be easy for them to, particularly for the 63 crew, to be a little bit miffed at the way that race ended, but when it's a good, clean, fair battle like that, you really can't actually hold a grudge against the guys that beat you.
No, it's good to see. That's what you want in a team. Hard but fair racing and respect between the crews. It was really nice to see that.
there was a horrifying moment where they made contact and then
Bit of carbon flew off, yeah.
I really did panic because even if they don't spin, you think about punctures, bent steering, all these things that could go wrong, but thankfully wasn't the case. Right, we move on to the Silver Am podium, I believe now, in GT3. So drivers making their way up. It is the Proctors first, Stuart and Lewis Proctor, who seem to get themselves involved in an awful lot of battles, despite not necessarily being on the lead lap, pushing hard towards the end. Then Sanderhan and James Cottingham, who had a slightly quieter race this time, although at least Sam got a drive in this one. He didn't get to go in the car at all during the race. In the Brands Hatch season opener, and of course only 2 entrants in the Silver Am class. Third technically went to the Nearies, but I don't know if they actually completed enough laps to be registered as third, so they don't appear on the podium, that's for sure. So it's Mahan and Cottingham for Ram Racing who get themselves the Silver Am victory. But I must confess, I thought that maybe Ram Racing might be able to challenge for overall honours, given how strong the Mercedes are in general. I did wonder whether maybe they'd be able to get up there and challenge for the race victory. GT4 overall then podium now begins. And top 3 drivers in the top 3 teams, I should say, in the very competitive GT4 field. There you can see Stellar Motorsport, the Audi. That Audi is a good car, it goes well at all of the circuits, it seems, so they're going to be championship contenders for sure, as I suspect will Matt Topham and Darren Turner. And Darren, he's won a lot of races in his career. He's won even more prestigious races than this, but this will mean something as a British driver, especially. This is the pinnacle of this form of racing in this country. It's the crown jewel event of the season. Yeah, this is one Darren will remember.
He'll be very happy with that. He's got the family here today.
Oh,
he
nice.
lives very close by, so yeah, that's a good one for him. Keep him smiling.
Yes, he was filling me in yesterday about how driving a GT car was infinitely less complicated than emptying the toilet on his motorhome. So he's living the family dream this weekend, is Darren Turner, camping with the family and loving every second of it, so he tells me. So final podium will be the GT4 Pro-Am top 3. And, they were robbed of a victory at Brands Hatch, but it will be another class podium, at least for Sito Motorsports, Mark Sanson and Charlie Robertson. This was never going to be the best circuit for the Chatter, I think, so they'll be quite happy with the points that they managed to bag. John Ferguson and Scott McKenna back on the podium again. They were on there for the overall GT4 podium. They're also second in Pro-Am. And it's that bloke again, Darren Turner and Matt Topham, with another pair of trophies then to add to their respective cabinets as the winners in the GT4 Pro-Am category. And that was a great battle within the battle. We didn't get a lot of time to talk about the sort of Pro-Am battle within GT4, but it's nice to see actually that the Pro-Am teams are able to compete with the Silver Cup entries, because a couple of years ago that wasn't really the case. Silver Cup entries were winning every race in GT4, but now, yeah, it's a lot more even.
Again, like the balance of performance of the cars, the extra time they have to spend in the pits means that these guys can come along and not just compete in their class, but compete for the overall victories and podiums, which is really nice.
Well, it really works, doesn't it? Because the 27 Aston Martin that won GT4 overall finished 3.3 seconds ahead of the Audi. That's a Pro-Am ahead of the Silver Cup. Neither of them had success penalties, so they came within 3 seconds of absolutely nailing that handicap system, and really, really worked well. Everything went quite well actually today. It's been a fantastic race here at Silverstone. The Silverstone 500 never fails to entertain, and the 2021 edition was absolutely no exception. Let's take a look back, shall we then, at the highlights of what was another thrilling edition of the race. Well, at the start of the race, the 14 Mercedes in pole position with the number 1 Lamborghini alongside, and that would kind of be the story at the end of the race, but an awful lot happened in the meantime. Lots of the early action was centred around the other Barwell car, number 63, with Leo Machinsky at the wheel, who halfway around the first lap had a huge spin, which could so easily have ended in retirement for the car. The car rotated 2.5, nearly 3 full times, and he rejoined right at the back of the GT3 field. The Academy Ford Mustang was moving forward for the back of the GT4 grid, whilst Richard Neary put in one of the best stints we've seen from him, carving his way through the GT3 pack. Sadly, Brendan Reid was out from second place early on after contact with the GT4 Mercedes, whilst there was an issue of another kind for John Ferguson in the Toyota, and his wing mirror came loose. battling on the track, then turned into action in the pit lane. Richard Neary in to hand over to his son Sam, who sadly wouldn't get a huge amount of time in the car because only a couple of laps later the youngster was looking dejected in the garage after a gearbox issue put them out of the race. At the head of the field, after the first round of pit stops, the 63 Barwell Lamborghini of Dennis Lynn moved into the race lead on track ahead of the 14 car, not a position though that they would hang on to till the flag, whilst there was contact between Marcus Cook and Johnny Adams who went through the loop. That damaged the right front corner of the McLaren. They were out of the race, but Adam thankfully was able to continue. In GT4, Matt Topham first, and Darren Turner was able to take over. That car was always up there in the top 3 positions or so. So too was the Audi, which pitted twice very early on in the race, so they weren't necessarily running right at the front of the GT4 field, but we knew they'd be up there by the end of the race. Into the middle part of the 3 hours of racing we went, and unfortunately, heartbreak for the Paddock Motorsport Bentley that looked like it might be a contender for a podium. They retired with an engine issue out on track. Whilst the GT4, the front runners had to dodge some of the GT3 cars. The battle at the end was all about second place. The 2 Barwell Motorsport Lamborghinis went wheel to wheel on the last lap with Sandy Mitchell moving into second. But the race victory in the Silverstone 500 went the way of 2C's Motorsport with Martin Kodrich and Hunter Abbott winning at the Silverstone 500. Of the season begins in the Intelligent Money British GT Championship with the second visit of the year to the magnificent Grand Prix circuit at Donington Park. We were here just over a month ago in very different conditions. This afternoon the sun is out, the temperature is in the mid-20s, and the racing action should be every bit as entertaining as it was on our first visit to the Leicestershire venue. Over a 3-hour race, the first of 2 3-hour races this season. As we make up for lost time in this slightly strange 2020 calendar. And it should be a really fascinating race with multiple strategies set to play out, a really, really closely matched grid, and a championship that is still, even at this late stage, absolutely wide open. Well, my name is Andy McEwen. I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Graham Johnson on co-coms for this race. And Graham, this 3-hour race is not new to British GT, but it is the first time in quite a while that we've had a 3-hour race here at Donington Park. What unique challenges does that extra hour add into the drivers?
It makes an enormous challenge. It really does make a huge change. The strategy that happens where you used to do an hour, guaranteed. Now you're trying to go safety car hunting. You're trying to get one out and make sure that you capitalise on a safety car window. So you'll leave your driver out as long as you can. If the fuel tank will last long enough, and some of these cars will go up to an hour and a quarter, you'll try and get that hour and a quarter out of them. The only trouble is, if you've got a Pro-Am pairing, and one of those drivers isn't that competitive, you're losing a second a lap. Okay, it's only a second. But hang on a moment, you're doing 30, 40 laps. You're talking 40 seconds. This race won't actually really start to unfold until the last hour, so stick with it.
Here's how they line up then for round number 6 of the Intelligent Money British GT Championship. It's Team Rocket RJN on pole position with James Baldwin starting the car, and Sam DeHaan second in the championship, second on the grid here today. Row 2 for the second, first of the Barwell cars, number 72, and Ian Logley in the second of the Ram Racing Mercedes. And then on the third row, the grid, Rob Collard, championship leader for Barwell, has Michael Igo in the WPI Motorsport Lamborghini for company on row 3. Row 4 for Lewis Proctor and Angus Fender, 2 McLarens, 1 from Optimum, 1 from 2C's Motorsport. Then rounding out the top 10 on the 5th row of the grid are Rich Williams in the Stella Motorsport Audi and Richard Neary in the Team Abbott Racing Mercedes. Outside that top 10 then, Jordan Wiggs in the second 2C's McLaren ahead of Nick Jones in the Team Parker Racing Bentley that won here last time out after an inspired tyre choice in race number 2. Then it's Stuart Proctor in the Bell Motorsport McLaren that he shared with Joe Osborne ahead of Michael Brown in the Ultimate Speed Aston Martin, making its first appearance here this weekend. Emirates GT4 Academy Motorsport won at Brands Hatch last time, and they're on pole position again here. They're really coming on form in the big part of the year. The Mustang on pole ahead of Patrick Mathieson in the HHC Motorsport McLaren. Then row 2 of GT4 sees the Conor O'Brien TF Sport Aston Martin line up alongside the championship leading McLaren from HHC Motorsport, started by Chris Bowers. Then we have got Daniel Vaughan in the second TF Aston Martin, Mia Fluid in the only Pro-Am entry in GT4, the Balf Motorsport McLaren. And then behind them we have Jan Klingelberg in the second Balf McLaren, ahead of Century Motorsports BMW. Then it's the 33 Century Motorsport BMW started by David Whitmore, with James Kell in the Speed Run 2. They had brake problems in qualifying, that's why they're at the back of the grid. 3 hours of racing, round number 6 of the Intelligent Money British GT Championship bursts into life under the sunny skies at Donington Park, and it is Jay Baldwin on the inside line. On the outside line, there is Sam Tahan. There's contact further back to Hand, running around the outside, and there's more contact. Michael Igo goes round into the gravel trap into the Ricciardo, and Sam Tahan spins as well. Sam Tahan second in the championship, pointing the wrong way out of Redgate Corner. Well, this is the longest race of the year so far, and it's the first time that we've had first lap collisions. It's all kicked off through Redgate Corner. It looks as though the number 2 car has held on to the race lead at 72. No, it's the Ram Racing car in the second. 72 has also been delayed in all of that and dropped way back. It's still Academy at the lead in GT4 ahead of the 2 HHC cars, 58 ahead of 57. Well, that was not in the script, was it, Graham?
Yeah, no. Do not lean on each other on the first corner of a 3-hour race. So I watched it. I'm pointing at the screen with you saying, look, that Lambo's about to go. Give each other space. There was room on the exit. They could have done that. And then I think Sam possibly spun in sympathy. I'm not sure what happened there, but that car looked stuck. Could we see a safety car now? Yes, right. Okay. Honestly, I think we'll probably see some pit stops. Get your AM driver out. Get your pro driver in. They can do 100 minutes, okay? That's an hour and 40 minutes. That means the Anne only has to do an hour and 20 minutes. Often, in the case of Stuart Proctor and Joe Osborne, Joe's 2.5 seconds lap faster. I think we're going to probably see in a second someone pull into the pit lane.
Yes, because there is no pit window. You have to make 3 pit stops, you have to make 3 driver changes. You can do them whenever you like, as long as neither driver does more than 100 minutes. And I thought Optimum were going to die for the pit lane. Barwell do. Adam Ballon is in, the first to blink. They did this a few years ago at Silverstone, pitted at the end of lap 1, and it was an inspired decision then. So is this, and it also come both of the TF Sport Aston Martin. So you're absolutely right. Although the Aston Martins, remember, are Silver Cup.
That surprises me. That surprises me. I thought I would see Mia Fluid in the Balf Motorsport car stop. They're obviously not ready yet. Look, what we do in the garage, in the truck, for hours after hours, is go through loads of what-if scenarios. What if it's a safety car after this amount of time? All these guys know how long their fuel lasts, how long they can go in a stint. They obviously know at TF something that the other teams don't know. So they've pitted 2 very quick drivers, including the other 2 quick drivers. So they've got a strategy here that probably isn't immediately obvious to everyone.
The safety car is in, James Baldwin floors the throttle, and as we go on to lap number 3 of the race, we are starting again. Now, the Aston Martins are still in the pit lane. They're going to lose a lap as a result of this early pit strategy. That adds further confusion to the mix as Lewis Proctor has a look at the inside of Rob Collard for 3rd position into Redgate Corner. This early safety car has really disrupted the rhythm of the race, hasn't it? They haven't had time to warm themselves up gradually. If they got me, it was a sudden rush of adrenaline, then it all stops, and then a lap later they're straight back on it again.
You're right, and I'm about to go into a bit of a rant, Andy, because Loggie's going to make a mistake here. He's going to try and hold on to seconds. He was defending. Look, in the nicest possible way, he's not as quick as the cars behind him. It's a 3-hour race, easy for me to say. And what he needs to do is not lose time. And every bit of defence that he does, he will lose time. And that will cut back and forth then the team in 2.5 hours, 2 3/4 hours time. You can see already that he's desperate to hold on to that 2nd place. If it were me, I'd be focusing on not losing time.
Yes, but we saw him do this at Brands Hatch last time, didn't we? And it was a pretty solid defence that he put up, and it definitely cost them a lot of time, and that's a big part of the reason that the number 2 car was able to pull out a massive lead. And of course, we're now in a very similar situation again here today. The number 2 car getting away, the number 6 car in second is a bit of a roadblock. Easier to overtake here though, Donington Park, I'd imagine, so there's maybe more of a chance that Rob Collard or Lewis Proctor might be able to break through his defences.
Yeah, I think you're right. The two hairpins, so the corners we've just gone round, are the only places where there's heavy braking zones. Everywhere else is all about trying to carry corner speed. And so if you can carry as much corner speed as you can, roll the momentum into the high-speed corners, you get a better exit and get a run on them. So it's not going on the brakes here, only hit the two hairpins. Here it's done, you out-drag them from getting a better exit.
Sam DeHaan here then is now getting past the GT4 leader, so they are now at least ahead of the GT4 pack. They did not lose a lap, crucially. The WPI car, did that lose a lap? Let me just have a little look back. Yes, it did, at least one, maybe two.
Yeah.
So that is their race kind of over before it really began, which is a shame for a car that won here at in August last time we visited Donington Park, at least the 69. I told you I shouldn't have tipped them to win the race, should I, on the grid? They are at least on the lead lap, and it is a long race. They're still in contention. This is something else they have to consider, I suppose, with the stint lengths. Yes, and Phil Keane is a prime example of this. The number 72 Lamborghini, they've made this early pit stop. Phil Keane is going to be in the car now, we presume, for quite a long time. That means they're going to have to keep the tyres alive for a bit longer. And okay, they're not a silver car, but if a silver team were to try this, that extra weight would make that job a little bit harder. Well, Adam Ballon has been in this car for a lap. Let's find out how he felt after that lap. Will Lucas is down at the Barwell garage with him.
Yeah, I am indeed. Adam here. That was a short-lived first lap for you. Tell us from your point of view what happened, what you can see ahead.
Well, I was tucked up behind the McLaren, the whole setup, and I think Sam got a good start around the outside. Next thing, we just got around Redgate. Next thing, I needed to make steering across the track. I was going to go there, but then he got carried up steering and to go right and just about missed it.
Now, you always see very good strategies in this one. Is this a strategy you and the team have discussed if there was not straight away?
Not with me, I just got on top, so it's like up to that side. So I just got top to rock, so I got.
And when was the call then for you running? Was it immediate?
No, it was about halfway round, and I was coming up the back straight, and I got a five. He said, just don't argue with stuff, we always try to turn right on, so that's my job.
Yeah, that's the last time that Last time I didn't have a result we like, but we had a good result here, so hopefully I can...
Yeah, exactly, back to that sort of result we had last time here on the round one.
Yeah, any idea when you're going back in?
No, actually, I don't know, I'm going to rest for a bit now.
Doing as he's told there, back to you.
Yeah, I'm sure he needs time to rest after that super long stint that he's just completed, but all joking aside, I mean, the driver is sometimes the last to know about these decisions, aren't they?
They are. What's interesting about Adam Ballon, other than that, what have we got
that's
here?
Ian Lockie. That is Ian Lockie from second place off at the old hairpin. This is major drama. He's going to get the car going, thankfully, so no safety car.
That's a bit of his car on, and that's possibly left on the track. There's something ripped off the bottom of that car. Let's see what happens here.
And he lost it on his own.
Looks like he's got his own. Oh, I see. It was
it's
that Pirelli side.
Yes.
Okay, so he's just had a spin. Look, he can recover from that. But I mean, look, his teammate right now will be absolutely furious with him.
Fight for second place though rages on. They're negotiating a little bit of traffic. They're heading back towards the Grand Prix loop again. And at one point, Rob will maybe consider pitting Lewis Proctor here, just getting out of this this battle, because it's clearly costing him time.
Yeah, but you know what Lewis doesn't want to hear? He doesn't want to hear pit. He wants to overtake. He's going from the inside. Is he got room? Oh, how did he miss him? But interesting to watch Rob. Rob's driving the car far straighter. So if you imagine, if you draw a compass, Lewis has the car far more of a circular, wider arc into the corner, whereas Rob's squaring the corner off and getting it straight on the exit. So yeah, we've just seen the 2C's car over there of Fender pit. So I think we can probably assume that we'll see Whittin very soon as well.
Marco Capelli is back out now in the 18 Lamborghini, making his first appearance in the championship, partnering Michael Igo in the number 18 Lamborghini. The factory driver is Marco Capelli, very quick racer. He has raced here at Donington, I believe, but quite a long time ago. As it is a very expensive McLaren car park down in 2C's Motorsport car is in. Tyre changes every time as well here, of course, so they should always have relatively fresh rubber on, although it won't necessarily be a sticker pair of tyres, will it, every time?
No, you don't have enough tyres over the course of the weekend to have new ones every time. They'll be using their qualifying tyres. Both drivers get a new set of quality tyres, so they'll be using one each. They'll be kept, if they've been intelligent, they'll have kept a tyre over one more set they didn't use in testing. You never know. That's the beautiful thing about GT racing. You don't know what the other guy's got. You don't. And so, if they've kept a set of tyres, a new set of tyres is worth 1-2 seconds a lap.
Yeah, it really is. Into the pit lane goes James Baldwin then. So James Baldwin, the race leader, is in. And this is crucial because we need to opt for Phil Keane now, don't we? We reckon Phil Keane is going to come out with the race lead here once everybody has stopped. So James Baldwin will hand over to Michael O'Brien. The minimum pit stop time, remember, should be longer than the gap was between the McLaren and the Lamborghini. That sat at, a little over a minute, I think it was last time we checked. Rob Collard for now takes over the race lead in the Lamborghini. And the Optimum McLaren of Lewis Proctor goes second. Jordan Wick goes third, but Angus Fender is in the pit lane, as we said. So it's about a 50-50 split at the moment as far as those that have pitted and those that have not.
I don't know if you've spotted this. Have you seen the lead that Keane has over Michael O'Brien? They've both stopped once. Correct me if I'm wrong, but is that a 20-second lead?
It is, which is about what we thought it would be, isn't it? So Tom Hornsby, who fed us that information, I must stress, got the calculations absolutely right. So Phil Keane, once everybody else pits, should have the race lead, but that is, as we've said, because they've had the pro driver in for not even a little bit longer, significantly longer than a lot of the other Pro-Am cars out there. So we'll see how this plays out. But Kelly still hasn't been able to unlap himself, as there you can see the
contact.
Oh dear, yeah, but Kelly into the back of Proctor. This is what you're saying, this is not a fight that either of these drivers need to be having, but Capelli has nothing to lose. He's laps behind, and his only way of getting this car back into contention is to be aggressive, and aggressive he is, as he dives round the outside of Lewis Proctor. That was a hell of a move, but that was a risk that Lewis did not need to be taking.
Yeah, I mean, look, the team's job in that case is get on the radio and tell him not to fight. It's not a race that he's in. They're miles ahead of him. 2 laps, as you say, Andy. That was needless, and again, it cost time. Look how far behind Lewis is now from Rob.
Phil Keane goes through to officially move ahead of the Optimum McLaren. Now, where will this car come out in relation to Michael O'Brien? I suspect it might be ahead of the number 2 car, despite the fact that it was behind it when the pit stop sequence started. Number 33 is in, that's David Whitmore to hand over to Luke Sedgwick, and Gavin Bourbon, is in to serve the stop-go penalty. I've been told by Tom Hornsby that it was less than a second underneath the minimum pit stop time. As here, whoa,
that's breaking down, surely.
Yeah, there's a problem there, isn't there, for number 9 car, so that is, it hasn't made the pit lane yet, though, interestingly. So number 9 is Dean McDonald, lost 2 places on the previous lap, one of which we saw was to Patrick Pigarla, the other one to Sennett Fielding.
It's almost like he lost a gear or something, which is very unusual in these cars. He's a power shift. But look, we'll see the Optimum pit stop very leisurely, but they have the time, and you need to be leisurely here. We got Wilkinson taking over here. He qualified a second faster, as I said earlier, than Proctor. He's a very, very talented driver, and again, they're both fighting for a battery drive. Who's this we've got in here? This Collard?
I think it is. Yes, it is. The 78 is in. So this will complete the first round of pit stops, and as he pulls in, the Optimum car goes out. And I'm guessing that Phil Keane and Michael O'Brien have both gone through. Yes, they have. So the Optimum car is going to come out in 3rd position, I believe, as Joe Osborne goes through. He's snuck into the number 36 McLaren. And yeah, Optimum come out just in front of Patrick Pigarla. So this is going to be for about 3rd, 4th and 5th places once you throw the 78 car back into the hunt. So 96 now being driven then in this second stint of the race by Ollie Wilkinson. 69 is Patrick Pigarla. You've got Sennett Fielding in the Audi behind him, having a really good run as well, flying under the radar a bit, but that Audi looks quick, and in another lap's time, this car will also be in that battle, and then we'll have a true picture of what the order is going to look like behind Phil Keane and Michael O'Brien. On track, meanwhile, this is Jordan Albert, who is closing in on Warren Hughes. So Warren Hughes is sadly not racing the Mustang position. He is a lap behind the number 61 car, which has now retaken the class lead, of course, because the Aston Martins have made their second pit stop. This car still owns us that pit stop. Michael O'Brien is back in as well. So yeah, this is absolutely what they're trying to do is play the strategy game here, get James Baldwin back in. James has been quicker than Michael so far in this race. It makes sense. Getting back in, they were hemorrhaging time to the cars behind, and so James Baldwin is back in the car. He's had about half an hour or so to rest up because this car was in quite early in the first proper cycle of pit stops.
Brand new tyres going on there. I'd tell you what we saw. I'd tell you why Michael wasn't quick. They left him on the old tyres. I think that's what's going on.
Right, that's interesting. So 72 go back through then. So Adam Ballard now goes back ahead of the Jensen Team Rocket RJM car. And it's going to be a job now to keep track of all of these different strategies. Well, I look at this is proper GT racing, proper endurance racing. Teams not restricted by pit stop windows. They are able to think outside the box. And so Michael O'Brien is no longer in that car. It will be James Baldwin who has jumped in now. And this is their second pit stop done. So I'm asking you this fully aware that you probably don't know, but now if you're making this early pit stop now, how long do you leave this driver? You've got to leave them right to the end of this will be the driver that does 100 minutes, surely now. This is the driver that will be done.
So Baldwin had done 60 minutes, and so he's allowed to do another 40 minutes.
Yes.
Michael O'Brien did what, 10, 15 minutes, something like that? I still can't quite work. I should have worked a study harder at school. I can't understand it so much. The only thing that does all of a sudden make sense is I'm absolutely certain that Michael was left on an old tyre.
Right.
Because that kid's quick.
Yeah.
I couldn't understand his pace.
So Bentley is in. We believe it came into the pit lane quite slowly. They
Well,
put it on they put it on the dollies, haven't they? So that's going into the garage. This is a shame. The car that won here in August is not going to do so again today. They've been a little off the pace in fairness. Scott Baldwin was in the car and was slowly sort of regaining some ground, but that is one of the worst sights in motor racing, isn't it? Seeing a car being wheeled back into the garage midway through a race with some sort of a problem. Right, out goes 78, right behind 72, I think, although of course not on the same lap anymore. No, they aren't on the same lap because Ballard owes us his third pit stop. Sandy Mitchell is into the end then. Matt Cowley is in as well to hand over to Sean now, but again, 20-second success penalty being served here because they won the race at Brands Hatch 3 weeks ago. And the Mustang, it was leading earlier, but now again, interestingly, they've chosen to take this pit stop at the earliest possible moment. Normally, the pattern has been they lead, and then they pit, and TF take the lead, and then TF pits, and they get the lead again. But that hasn't happened this time. They pitted before the TF4 cars have this time.
I think the TF95 is the genuine leader.
Yeah.
They don't have a penalty. And so Conrad is actually doing very nice laps. He's lapping in the 37s, which is where he needs to be. If he can get into the 36s even better. He's far, far ahead now of that, the number 97, the Ram car.
Yes.
That's what it's a Ram car, because it rams into them.
Yes.
And so he's far away from that. That's important. And look, in actual fact, number 97 is going to get distracted by a car that actually is not in too much of a race with him. I think he's looking good for Conor O'Brien. I do.
Ironically, speaking of Ram, the Ram Racing Mercedes is in, look right behind the Mustang, and that is a car that does not have a success penalty to serve. That will, though, be their final pit stop. So Sander Hahn handing back over to Patrick Kujala. 57, by the way, their penalty just cleared out of it. It was a pit lane infringement. I know no more than that, but a pit lane infringement. Not a short pit stop, because we know that's a different penalty. So too many.
Sometimes you have to put a clip to stop fire. You have to put a negative clip onto the back of the car. So many teams forget to do it, and if you do that, or maybe you have to put a fire extinguisher nearby, it gets you a penalty.
Okay, right. So yeah, that may well be what that was all about. So Ram then, who I think are still in contention, if not for the win, certainly for a podium here today. I think there might be a safety car away from challenging for the win, but the cars that were ahead of them, by and large, with the exception of 72, do have success penalties to serve. So back out goes Patrick Kujala, and the 69 car that was being driven by Sam DeHaan is now back in the race. There is Ollie Wilkinson, still sitting on just one pit stop, so they're going to have to make 2 pit stops inside the final hour, aren't they?
Yeah, but you know, you said it, he's leading the race, he doesn't need to let anyone by. All he's doing right now is costing the car that probably could win a chance of winning, because the guy's stuck behind him. He's got absolutely no obligations on him, but you know what, I'd do the same, I wouldn't let him by either.
Because the thing is, 96 is a lap ahead of number 2. It's not being lapped by number 2, in which case there is a responsibility to get out of the way. He has absolutely no responsibility to make life easy here for James Baldwin. And again, this is a situation that James may not be used to. He's new to racing at this level, multi-class racing, you know, dealing with pit stop strategies and things, and he'll be sitting there now, and the team will need to be coaching him. Don't get frustrated. Come into the pit lane. There you go. That's a good way of getting out of trouble. So James Baldwin is in, and Michael O'Brien will take over for the final pit stop. 15-second success penalty to be served here. There might be an element of reaction here as well, because the 78 car has just pitted, 69 and pitted there. The cars they're essentially fighting with here and are on a similar strategy with, so I suppose it makes sense to kind of copy what they did. This is the battle you wanted to see, the one between the Patrick Kuyala 69 Mercedes and the Jack Mitchell number 10 McLaren. This is for 6th place at the moment, but as we made the point, it could be for a podium place once we get to the end of the race. Oh, and that McLaren didn't look very happy over the curves. He's in the gravel trap. Yeah, it didn't look like that was the ideal line through the corner. You said yourself, you have to be careful of those curves, and some cars are more sensitive to the curves than others.
No, he was being caught. Like, I always talk to you about this, don't I, Andy? Is driving in your rear view mirror, not driving out the front of the car. The track is ahead of you, it's not behind you. What he's done there is he's carried too much speed into the S's, and when you carry too much in, it's too late. Once you've committed, you go over the curves. We're about to watch a replay in a second. You'll see he launches the car in. The problem is on the way in. On the way out, he's had no choice, smacked the curbs, lost the rear of the car a bit, well, to gather it up. I mean, he's going to lose a lot of time there, and I think that's probably 3rd place gone.
It may well be, because I think that Kuyala will now pull the pin. He's been released. He's only 2.5 seconds behind O'Brien, so again, O'Brien won't be too happy about that, because I reckon Kuyala might have the pace to catch him. So, Adam Ballon then is leading the way. Lewis Proctor is in 2nd place, 10.4 seconds behind him. So this is our first signal, I think, for how this race is going to pan out, because these two are both on the same strategy. They like pitted different times, but they both have one more pit stop to make. Proctor could catch Ballon here. He's over 2 seconds lap quicker, and Ballon, as we've said, as soon as he hits traffic, seems to lose even more time. So a couple of points here. Not only does it mean that Ballon's going to have to watch his mirrors because Optimum are arriving, but does this mean that the 72 car is not going to come out with the race lead once all the pit stops are done?
I've sort of counted out the optimum car. Maybe I shouldn't have done. I mean, Lewis has got new tyres. Let's put that first and foremost. He's taking a lot of curves. I don't know if you watch there through the exit of the car bounced around. And I mean, Lewis is on a mission. He's driving very well. With 28.8 on the last lap. What is that? 3 seconds off the best lap the car's done all race. They're clearly on a mission. I know that the Proctors and the Wilkersons haven't always seen eye to eye, but this sort of thing, I bet they'll be best friends if they win.
Well, and it would be just the confidence boost that they and that team need. They sit 7th in the championship. They've only had one overall podium so far this season, excuse me. As the leader goes past the GT4 leader, Conor O'Brien there, to put another lap on him. Conor O'Brien still owes us one more pit stop, so too does his teammate Dan Vaughan. They are separated by an ever-increasing margin. 95 definitely seem to have the edge here today, don't they? That gap has been growing throughout the course of the race. And we're right on board with Conor O'Brien now, the Irish driver heading through McLean's corner. And Dan Vaughan, 38.4 seconds he's pulled, or this car has pulled on the sister car. They've had the same number of pit stops, they're on the same strategy as well. That is not going to make Jamie Caroline and Dan Vaughan very happy, is it? Especially after what happened a few weeks ago.
Yeah, well, let's see what the balance of this car's like. Where's this?
That is Dee McDonald from 7th place. They've just made their final pit stop, remember, and that looks like the old hairpin. Now, he's not stuck in the gravel, but the car is not going anywhere, and you all know this as well. When the engines are hot, they've been running for a while. If you stall it, it can be quite hard to get fired back up.
Well, actually, I happen to know, not from my own experience, that if you go backwards in this car, if you spin backwards and you don't drop the clutch,
don't get buried in the gravel, Dean! Oh, have you got it out?
I can't watch. So yeah, if you go backwards in these cars and you don't get the clutch down fast enough, it can destroy the whole powertrain.
Yeah.
So I wondered there if he had a small problem, but I'd like to say small problem. Look what he's just done. He's cost himself so much time. Do you think
Left really has got damage, hasn't it? Let's see. So on board then.
Into the old hairpin. What happens?
Hits the curve.
Hits the curve too hard. Chuck the car around. Simple as that. He took too much curve.
I think there's damage to the left rear. What I don't know is whether he damaged it by hitting the curve or through the spin, or whether
damage it.
It was definitely.
He's got a puncher, yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
that's not what happened. The car we saw him. He took a lot of curve. The car. Well,
it could be effect rather than cause, I guess. Couldn't it?
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
I mean that's their race effectively over, isn't it? He needs to try and get off the racing line if he can.
This is for the race lead.
Yeah.
Both of these cars are on the same strategy. Ballard makes a bit of a mistake there at the hairpin.
He defended fresh air, he caught the curb, it bounced the car wide. Look, it doesn't matter if you lose the lead, don't lose time. He's turned it in early again, you see. He's defending far, far, far too early. When you defend early, you cost time. He can't lose time.
The thing is, I suppose, in his mind, that every lap he keeps that McLaren behind it is 2.5 seconds maybe less that Phil Keane has to buy back in the final stint. So just trying to think like an ant driver, you know, maybe he's thinking, if I can just hang on, it's a risk, because it could all go horribly wrong, but if he can just hang on for another, until the end of his stint maybe, or even just for another couple of laps, that could be huge. Speaking of huge, this is for third place, Patrick Kujala ahead of Michael O'Brien. The reason that is so significant is that they are the highest placed cars that have completed all of their stops, so depending on where the 72 and 96 cars come out, this could be for the race lead.
Michael had a ridiculously slow lap, the last lap out, 1:31.1. That was slower than Adam Ballard, who we know was, well, as we can see, he's under huge pressure. So I would not want to bet my house who's going to win this thing.
Michael O'Brien is matching, as you said, Ballard, but Kujala is not as quick as Proctor has been. So if Proctor can clear the Lamborghini quickly,
It's over.
yeah, he's going to get a good round of the chicane. He's got the inside line for the Melbourne hairpin, and Darren Ballard is trying to squeeze, but the orange McLaren is already there. It's not like you can miss that car in your mirrors, really, is it? It pulls alongside and goes in front, and Lewis Proctor takes the race lead for Optimum Motorsport with 32.5 minutes left on the clock, and one more pit stop to be served for both of these cars. Where will they come out in the amongst the rest of the field? We can't be far away here from Barwell pitting that 72 car, and it's almost like I know what I'm talking about. In it comes. I thought it was going to be around the half-hour mark. In they come.
You're just showing off.
So that lap, to my point I made a lap ago, that one lap that Adam Ballard held on, that was 2.5 seconds now. Phil Keane does not have to find in his final stint. Let's focus on the racing now, though, because at the end of this lap, the timing screen should now represent the actual order, because everybody, I believe, certainly of the front runners in GT3, have now completed their final pit stops. And it was a broken wishbone we're hearing for 2Cs, thanks Bryn. So a broken wishbone that has, now whether that caused the off or was a result of the off, we don't know. Through then comes Patrick Kujala. He has a 2.7 second lead over Michael O'Brien in the number 2 McLaren. Third place is the number 10 2Cs McLaren, which we've forgotten.
We missed that.
Yeah, so that is actually in third position. It's now being driven by Jack Mitchell, 4.7 seconds behind O'Brien. Phil Keane is 2.3 seconds behind him in fourth, and Ollie Wilkinson is fifth, a further 1.3 back. The key here is they are 4 silver-graded drivers and Phil Keane. Phil Keane should be the fastest of that group. Can he gain 9.7 seconds on Patrick Kujala and overtake everybody in 27 minutes? Visually, Phil Keane then is not that far behind Michael O'Brien, and I think give him another lap or so, he's going to be right on the tail, although that mistake...
Yeah, he missed the apex.
Yeah, that wasn't ideal, was it? We saw Adam Ballard doing that before, so if we always talk about how good the Lamborghini is through the tight corners, it doesn't seem to be stopping particularly well.
Alan's been giving him training.
Quite possibly. Phil knows this place like the back of his hand. They knows his car as well like the back of his hand. Phil Keane, Barlow Motorsport, Lamborghinis, they just go together really well. And wouldn't it be fitting if at this circuit of all circuits, they could become the first double winners of the year.
Despite that mistake, he was still quicker than Michael in sector 3. And the overall lap was what? 4/10 almost quicker. This is on.
Yeah, absolutely. I was about to mention the car 18 has been, was on its 4th warning for track limit. Before I had the chance to tell you about that, it exceeded them again, got given a drive-through penalty. So car number 18, which is 10th place, by the way, after they brought out that one and only safety car we've had so far. Malcolm Kelly in the car in 10th position. They will lose that 10th place to Joe Osborne in the Bath Motorsport car. He's back in for his second and final stint now, but they shouldn't fall much further back than that. Critically, though, that will put them out to the points. WPI, at least by Glyvo, was 5th place in the championship. So this is going to cost him, realistically, you'd have to say, a shot at the title this year. There's confirmation on your screen of that track limit penalty. There's also on your screen, more interestingly in a way, the battle for 2nd place, Michael O'Brien and Phil Keane, 2nd place. Look how much later the Lamborghini was on the brakes.
Yeah, I was interested to see which car was stronger where. And Phil launched launches the car into the essence. I mean, he's already starting to have a look. Michael's not daft, he knows that's not going to happen, but it'd be interesting to see. Phil's just got so much more confidence at this stage of the race, hasn't he? I mean, I think I'm right in saying his tyres are younger than Michael's, aren't they?
Yes.
Michael's already done, look, he's defending early. Phil's chucked it, he's going for the...
Oh, lovely.
Beautiful. I mean, sorry, that was absolute textbook. But Michael covered the line too early.
Yeah.
It slowed his entry.
Well, that's exactly the move that Phil Keane pulled on Jack Mitchell a lap or so earlier as well. So that is his place that he's strong. Now, if I was round racing, I'd be telling Patrick Kujala, okay, first of all, you've got Phil Keane coming, he is quicker than you, he probably will catch you. Also, defend into Red Gate Corner, because that's clearly where Phil is feeling strong. That Lamborghini accelerates off Goddard's really well, puts it in the window to have a go on the brakes, and then stopping really nicely into that first corner as well. And so Phil Keane, there is the man he's chasing. Patrick Kujala goes past the 95 car and runs third in GT4, and it's still no closer to the GT4 leaders than it was. Although Jordan Collard is now only 1 second ahead of Jordan Allen, the top two in GT4 are closing together slightly. But Phil Keane, then the starting point is about 8.5 seconds that he's got to gain, and he's got 13 minutes to do it. It's touch and go, this, isn't it? So it's been a championship campaign built on consistency rather than race wins. But if you can have a consistent championship campaign and then win a race or two, then you really are on to a win.
Yeah, which way was that car facing at the start of the race?
Yes, not the right way.
Not the right way. And it's extraordinary. Look, I think this race gets won by them. It'd be because of the first stint.
Yes.
Because he did a remarkable recovery job. Sam did an incredible recovery job. I wonder, ironically, if he would have been as quick if he hadn't dropped it.
Yeah, that definitely gave him the incentive, didn't it, to kind of to fight back and reclaim the lost time. Yes, I'm thoughts like correct. Joe Osborne being given a 30-second post-race time penalty in lieu of a stop-go penalty for exceeding track limits. So Joe Osborne will not be particularly happy with that, but he is, as I said, out of the points anyway. Only 2 seconds behind Marco Mappelli, so he could have got back into the top 10, but that now won't happen. All traffic here for the leader. Yeah, Kujala now. If we'd have had another 10 or 15 minutes to go, he might have gone for that, but I think he knows that he doesn't need to do anything silly here. Phil Keane is 5.8 seconds back, took another half a second out from on the previous lap, and in the first sector this time another 3/10. The middle sector, you imagine, would have been affected by that traffic as well. But I think he could afford to be a bit more cautious there in the traffic. There will only be one more lap to go after this one.
Yeah, you know, you can never be conservative. I always remember a great piece of advice I got from my old teammate Michael was, it's not over until it's over. And I remember vividly racing the time I was on the last lap, I thought I was going to win, a backmarker got in the way and I came third. And you must keep battling until the last second, and only when you cross the line, maybe before the last corner, can you afford to relax.
Yeah, that's, and with this amount of traffic to deal with, this is certainly not over yet, although Kujala has now cleared the Warren Hughes and Chris Westmail scrap, so he now should have clear air pretty much to the flag, whereas Phil Keane is going to have to negotiate those two on the running to Red Gate Corner. Probably going to catch them through Goddard's and try to get them into turn number 1. Out of the final turn he goes, 1 minute left on the clock, and the 6th round of the Intelligent Money British GT Championship has been a strategically fascinating race, and it is all going to come down to the very last lap or so. It's not going to be a massive winning margin this for either of these two, but I think Patrick Kujala, he was 3.4 seconds ahead going on to the final lap of the race. He was 2.5 seconds slower on the previous lap, and we know traffic had a lot to do with that. And I don't think there was too much more of that in the road behind them, by the way. Michael O'Brien, only 1.6 seconds ahead of Jack Mitchell, and Sandy Mitchell has put in a really great stint here, and we haven't really been able to mention him enough because he came out of the pit lane about 15 seconds behind Ollie Wilkins, so he's only 5 seconds behind him now. But again, sadly, he's just going to run out of time, I think, to actually do anything about it.
Well, they had a 20-second success penalty, didn't they? And he's only 23 seconds off the lead of the race. So I guess we can conclude that they would be around. In fact, the battle between them and Keane Allen would be split by a tiny, I mean, less than a second.
Yeah, that's true, but that shows that success penalty has done its job.
Yeah.
For the 170th time then in this fantastic 6th round of the championship, Patrick Kujala is bringing the number 69 Ram Racing Mercedes into the final corner, and this time around you will see the checkered flag. It is a 6th different race winner in GT3 from as many races And Ram Racing take the victory here at Donington Park, and with it, they will close right in on the championship lead. Phil Key brings the Barlow Lamborghini home second on that alternate strategy that they were running right from the start of the race. But it is celebrations all round at Ram Racing. Third place goes to Michael O'Brien. Another podium result for the Jensen Team Rocket RJM McLaren. And they just about fend off the 2C Motorsport McLaren and Jack Mitchell, who are fourth place. Fifth position for Ollie Wilkinson, sixth for Sandy Mitchell and Rob Collard, the winners last time out. So I'll work out the points at the moment, but they're definitely going to lose some points, obviously, to the Ram car for second in the championship. In GT4, it looks as though it is going to be HHC Motorsport who come out on top here, although a bit of traffic here for the leader to deal with right at the end of the race. That is the David Sitchikowski driven BMW, which is not making life too easy for Jordan Collard. But Jordan Collard is going to bring the number 58 car, but he shares with Patrick Mathiasen across the start-finish line as a first-time winner in the championship this year. Their first victory of the season. Second place goes to the winners last time at Brands Hatch and Academy Motorsport. And third position, just coming out the final corner, is the 95 Aston Martin, and that will be redemption for what happened at Brands Hatch, because they were fighting for third place then when they got nerfed off into the gravel. And it's 95's Conor O'Brien and Patrick Kibble who come home third place in GT4. And just like that, 3 hours is over. I mean, that was a fascinating race, and it was one of those races where you really didn't know what the outcome was going to be until right at the end. And I'm really, really happy for Ram Racing, because this has been a long time coming.
Yeah, and Jen Kingston, who runs that car, will be his first GT3 win, so well done to him. But look, I'm just trying to work out, what did we just learn from that race? Well, we learned that the Mustang in GT4, which has only finished just over a second behind the leader, we've learned that thing is quick, because he had a big success penalty from winning last time out. So that car is on the song. They're going to have another penalty at Sneck next time round, aren't they? But that car's quick. We also learned what we already knew, that the Mercedes is kind on its tyres, and that the McLaren isn't kind on its tyres. And we also learned that Adam Batten can go head-to-head with semi-professional race drivers, and actually he's quick enough to get the car to second place. Come on, let's give the guys some credit here. Oh, yeah. They don't get any benefit other than a bit less weight in the car, and the blokes brought it home to second place.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a good result, that Barlow Motorsport. But it's Ram Racing that take the race victory. Sander Han and Patrick Vignala with their first win of the year, their first win together as well, of course. Adam Ballon and Phil Keane come home in second place and score some valuable points. They're very much still in contention with that result. Whilst Michael O'Brien and Jay Baldwin, the same can be said of them in third. Jordan Witt and Jack Mitchell for 2C in the fourth, with Ollie Wilkinson and Lewis Proctor. Maybe a slightly disappointing fifth place in the end, but it's still a decent point haul for them, with Rob Collard and Sandy Mitchell, the championship leaders, in sixth position. Like I said, I'll break out the abacus in a moment and try to work out if they still are the championship leaders. It's going to be tight. The Audi of Senna Fielding and Richard Williams are seventh, with Richard and Sam Neary eighth for Team Aber Racing. Yama Berman and Ian Logie in the Ram Racing car that had a penalty come home next in ninth place, with Marco Mapelli and Michael Iger rounding out the top 10. In GT4, it is Dean McDonald, Jordan Collard and Patrick Mathiasen who take the victory for HHC Motorsport. It's Academy Motorsports, Jordan Albert and Matt Cowley who are second, with Patrick Kibble and Conor O'Brien third for TF Sport. Jamie Caroline and Dan Vaughan in the sister car are fourth, so they won't have any success penalty to serve at Snetterton next time. Ewan Hankey and Nia Fluid are next, the one of two Pro-Am cars in the field. Then it's Sam Stelton and James Kelly in the Speedworks car. They had quite a quiet run in the end to sixth in class. Jan Klingelberg and Warren Hughes on their first appearance in the championship this year are next ahead of Chris Bowers, Chris Westmail with the 57 car, and then those that had problems. David Whitmore and Luke Sedgkowski in the BMW pulled off with a mechanical issue midway through the race. Ben Hurst and Aaron Hatfield in the pit lane early on, and of course Scott Bolton and Nick Jones only completed 55 of the 117 laps.
6 different winners of the year, and what a phenomenal race that was. Patrick coming down to 3 seconds at the end, being pushed by Phil and his guys.
No, not pushed at all. Everything under control, to be honest. So it might look from TV like that, but I was not worried at all.
So you felt it was totally in control, you were able to manage the gap?
Yes, no problem at all.
Now for yourself then, Sam, looking on for the side there, trying to work out what was going on, did you get nervous at any stage?
No, really. I think it's just, quite an emotional race, coming from last place after getting tagged at the first corner. To come back, I think we had a really clean race other than that. Our stints are really good, the pit stops were great. Can't complain, I think a perfect race for us, really.
Well, fantastic. Thanks very much, Les. Well done to you.
Cheers, thank you.
Patrick, well done to you, Jordan, as well. Fantastic race.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, well, Jordan did a mission got me here in the end. He really pushed the car right to the limits. And yeah, the strategy went with us today, so really happy.
Now for yourself then, Jordan, when you were in the car at the very, very end, you had the Academy guys chasing you down 2.5 seconds. Any concern at any stage?
I think for about an hour straight I was concerned, to be honest. No, they were really good today as well. They've got a very good car, so yeah, no, like I said, it was just a case of being consistent. The McLaren's a really reliable car, so I know I can get it to the end. And then yeah, just like I said, ticking over each lap, and obviously managing the GT3 traffic isn't easy, so I had him in front of me for the whole of my first stint, and then luckily behind me for the last one, which is good.
So, fantastic. So how would you sum up that race in 3 words?
Get me home.
Fantastic. Well done, gents. Great win.
So that was round number 6 of the Intelligent Money British GT Championship. It's been a fantastic 3 hours of racing. Be sure to join us next time at Snetterton. Thank you very much to Graham Johnson for joining me up here in the box. Thanks for your company, everyone. We'll see you again next time.